over here. Let me know if you can hear me. Let me know if my voice is too loud or should be turned up a little bit. I'm going to be doing the Title Tuesday commentary today. We got a lot of really good players, who signed up. Yeah, let me know if everything's alright. I think it's going to be a really fun tournament. And you might know me as a GM. You might know me for losing to Hikaru when he was playing the Bond Club. You might know me from Chess.com, but this is my first time, so if you have any questions outside of the games, feel free to put them in the chat. Games are gonna start in like 3 minutes. I am on Canadian soil, that's right, I'm in Montreal at Eric Hansen's place. And yeah, just looking forward to seeing these games. Okay, some of the players we have over here are really strong. So Daniel Nitki is the #1. Rated 2841 blitz on Chess.com, that's a really good rating. Sebastian, which is Lenya Dominguez. Eric and I have been playing in a little bit the past few days. Anton Demchenko, who's a decent grandmaster from Russia. And we got a couple of really big blitz experts, especially Vladimirovich 90, that is Andreikin from Russia, very good blitz player, and also Tigran Petrosian, who you might know for qualifying to a match against Magnus Carlsen. I see we have some Dutch fans in here as well. I like that. Hoi iedereen, bedankt voor het kijken. And I'll keep it to that in terms of Dutch. And yeah, so a lot of good players here. Also, going down the list, more GMs. Gregory Oparin, who I played, I lost to him once or twice. Tennis Master, Cuban Grandmaster that I played recently. Nitki is his name. So yeah, this is going to be a very tough event to win, 9 rounds. And I'm curious what kind of openings these guys are going to go for. So I haven't followed Title Tuesday that much in the past. I definitely know that Naroditsky won 1 or 2. I'm sure that Dominguez, playing regularly, must have won a couple of them. I believe first couple of places have good prize money. I think it's the top 3. It sounds like I'm using a voice changer. Let me try to adjust that, guys. So let me know if it's any better now. Luke, I sound like Darth Vader right now. Okay. Try it out. Okay, so using a slightly different mic now. Let me know if this is any better, guys. If I sound like Darth Vader, we probably don't want to be doing that. So let's see if there's any games started. Definitely have started. So here we have board #1, Daniel Naroditsky against Ilya Semyonovs from Latvia, I believe. I'm not familiar with that player, but not an easy round, playing 2400 in the first game. So yeah, let me know if this mic's better, and then we're gonna get to the chess. I'm seeing people, you can understand me, I'm not Darth Vader anymore, so let's keep it this way then. Okay, so Daniel really went at it here with g4, g5. I'm actually surprised to see this, but I kind of like what he's doing with this open h-file that he's got going on here. I'd be very scared to castle here as black. Let me tell you one thing, it's probably worked out. I don't think g4 is a very good move, necessarily, against this line, but as long as he's got the rook on h1, it's sort of a waiting game, because black's only going to want to castle as soon as white castles, and as we can see, black's trying to create some player on the queen side. So b2 is one of the points that you want to put pressure on. At the same time, with the bishop on c1, it's very hard to really turn this into something significant. Maybe black will find a hard time developing this piece, so I was thinking a5, bishop a6 might be an idea. But generally, what we're seeing now is, okay, he's putting pressure on c3 and therefore e4. I'm expecting maybe queen to d3, which might run into knight e5. What Daniel definitely doesn't want to do is castle, but maybe he'll find himself forced to make that decision if black can try to really attack the c3 knight and the e4 pawn. So castling, probably not a very good move. Maybe he could consider bishop to d2 as well, playing for some tricks that rook to b1 might be there.
Yeah, he castled. Okay, so once again, I think now black must. It's like a small victory for black because obviously he's not going to get mated on the h file. It could still happen. Maybe we'll see Daniel go like king g2, rook h1 at some point, but this is definitely not what he had in mind when he went for this g4 and knight g3 thing. So I sound like Obi-Wan right now, which I don't know. I don't even know if that's an improvement. Let me see if we can fix it again. Um, yes, our friend Lafong actually on the Chess Bros stream was playing Daniel Naroditsky in Bullet, and he did okay. Daniel definitely beat him like pretty badly, but considering Lafong is an FM, he did very reasonable. So Daniel's been playing quite a bit, I think, the last couple of days, maybe preparing for this event. Um, I like what Black's doing here. So obviously the knight is in a little bit of trouble, but he can always defend it with f5 or h5. He's up a pawn. King looks reasonably safe to me. And I'm really disliking this bishop on c1. That's the main issue for me with this position. What are you going to do with this bishop? f4, f5 is not going to happen. Even if it gets onto the a1, h8 diagonal, I'm not sure it's that useful. So I think black is a little bit better here. I wouldn't say it's already an upset in the making, but it definitely could be heading south here. Especially the queen trade just doesn't seem to me like it seems like white didn't really know what to do anymore. Um, it's going on Gonzo Chess. It's going on Chess Bay. I'm happy we've got a lot of people watching. Lafong is close to an IM. Yes, yes, he is. Okay, at some point black's gonna have to castle. I really think at some point he's gonna have to castle. He's still annoying a little bit here with rook b2, maybe bishop c1, rook c2. One of the tactics you also want to be looking out for is that let's say you go something like bishop e1, we've got rook takes g2 and knight e3 ideas. Okay, this is looking a little bit better for white in the sense that at least he's got his rook on the open file. And what white's saying here is basically, okay, the knight on g4 looks good, but what is it really doing? We're seeing a bit of a trade here. So black might be losing a6, but wins this pawn on d3, which honestly looks a lot more dangerous. I'm afraid that after rook takes a6 here, the rook's going to swing into b2, and that pawn's just going to try and promote. This is looking like a very bad position for Daniel right now. c4 is a move I like. So rook to b2, you now have check on a8, king to g7, check on c3, and you're losing the rook. So finally that bishop's finding a little bit of something to do here in the game. And at the same time, Daniel might have time to pick up this pawn playing rook a3. I still think black's better, but at least he's finding some tactics. So, tough game for him this first round. Definitely a tough game. f6 is a move I like, and you can also see that his opponent is confident. He's up more than 20 seconds right now, so I would say, and Daniel just offered a draw. Daniel just offered a draw. He's not confident. It got declined, and he played f6. I believe that's Ilya declined the draw. So he's really in for it. I mean, he's trying to beat Daniel for sure. It's a great position, especially now that the knight's coming back in. Knight to e4 might be an idea. Honestly, I think white is toast here. I really think this is close to lost. Rook a3, rook to b2. Maybe there's some tactics. Bishop to c3. I definitely think it's now or never. If you don't get this pawn on d3, I think it's going to be very bad. Of course, you can try and say maybe I'll bring the king in to help the defense, but honestly, with the knight coming to g4 and e4 with all sorts of checks, it's what he's doing, but I don't like it. I think rook to b2 right now, he's got to go king to e1. If king to e3, you got this check over here, you're losing it. I think this game is about to be over. I think we're going to see big upset here. Knight to e4, d2 is coming. I don't think he can, he's losing the piece. He's losing the piece, and he's down in time. I think he can resign this. He can resign. Huge upset. I'm liking what I'm seeing, guys. Like, this is a nice game to start off with. Not for Daniel, obviously, but it's 9 rounds. He can make a comeback. But we're seeing some really tough, we're seeing really tough chess here by the black player. It's really good stuff. Okay, he's gonna go king. He's gonna bring the king in. Daniel doesn't even have a piece for the, doesn't even have a pawn for the piece right now. So anything goes really. Slowly but surely, those pawns will start dropping. and I highly doubt that Ilya will have any major technical difficulties here. He's now rerouting the knight to g4, and this is slowly but surely gonna be over. I'm guessing c4 or g3 is gonna fall first. Maybe he'll even play e6 to try and bring the king in a little bit more. A great game by Black. Absolutely great game. Again, I don't think... Oh, and a nice tactic. Knight to e3 was there. Picking up all these pawns, yeah. I'm expecting White to resign any moment. He's actually running into mate almost. That's interesting. So I would have gone rook b2, but there were some stalemate ideas. So Daniel's still trying to play tricky here. But you know, Ilya's taking the easy way. He's not, you know, setting up any potential stalemate ideas. He's gonna put the knight on e4, take more pawns, and yeah, this is not gonna cause any trouble anymore. Rook takes e4 was a nice tactic. I mean, he was already winning, but it just shows that black player is very sharp, very sharp. Knight of 6, okay. Is he gonna push the pawn, or is he maybe gonna just bring in the king? Yeah, that's what I would do as well. Rook h6, okay. I mean, honestly, this is totally over. I'm really curious if we're gonna see more good chess from Ilya. This was, again, he played a very rare opening, not a very good one. Daniel really went at him with that g4 move, and what I was gonna say is I don't like playing ultra aggressively against lines that are not that amazing to begin with. He's really doing a cheapo there with rook to b7. Okay, he just took it. Obviously, I mean, rook b7. I'm gonna say one thing, guys. I don't do that sort of stuff. I don't like, you know, when my opponent outplayed me, I'm not gonna go and give a rook away with the last shot to maybe win the game. I don't like it, but I understand it's a competition. It's allowed. Let's see if there's any other games going on. We have Nitki here with Black, also really suffering here against John Bartholomew, Finn's 0905. That is John Bartholomew, I believe. And he's up a piece, again, technically winning position. The GMs are really taking a beating here. The only thing is, okay, so White's going to keep pressure on this diagonal, and virtually that means the queen is going to be tied to the g7 pawn for the rest of the game. The annoying thing is you have a little bit of issue winning the a6 pawn, but actually, no, this is a great solution by John here. Just push the a pawn, you're way ahead, get the queen back to h1, and simple. Yeah, now you bring in the king. Easy display here, very easy way to solve this problem. I was thinking about having to win the pawn with my king on a6. No, you just change the queens, you get into a winning pawn endgame. Easy stuff. And a nice win here. I haven't seen the whole game, but a strong performance here by John, it seems. So he's off to a good start as well. Let's see, who else do we have? Alex Shimonov. That's one of the grandmasters from Russia. He's a little bit older than me, but he's around my year. I'm from 94, I believe he's from 92. Very good player. He's above 2600. And this seems to be heading towards a draw. So Alex actually here with White saving it. You're going to go king takes c4, and this should be a draw. I mean, obviously you can try to flag Black or something, but okay, draw agreed, normal. Again, a grandmaster who didn't manage to win. Very tough. Who do we have over here? And this is, I am not sure who this is actually. I would have to look this up. But let's have a look at the position. Oh, it's completely winning for White. Another GM who is losing. It looks like whenever the game goes to the distance, it's like something went wrong for the grandmaster here in the first round. So it's like every single game I'm looking at, it's the grandmasters are trying to survive. My countryman's playing here. His username is Joppie. That's Jordan van Verreest. And guess what? He also lost. I guess there, you know, some of the GMs here definitely had a easier round one, but this is rough. This is a lot of very strong players taking unexpected loss in the first round. Yeah, so he's losing here with Black against one of the Norwegian players. I believe he's quite a young player, so it might be very tricky in blitz. And here we have Grandmaster Plati, who made a draw, some kind of opposite color bishop ending. Robin, why is Eric not playing? Eric's in St. Louis working at the Field Cup, guys. So I'm taking over today. Eric might be online on Chess.com the coming days, but he's busy today. So, but you might see him pop up at the commentary of that event or something there. Yeah. So I think this was round one. A lot of upsets, which is great. I really thought some of these games were very exciting. Daniel Naroditsky went at it very aggressively. It didn't work out for him. Again, okay, maybe I'm a boring blitz player, but I like to keep things under control. I don't like to go h4, g4 unless it's something I know that is a good move. So especially when you don't know who you're playing in blitz, if you can just get a small positional advantage, and it was really, the opening he had on the board is known to be a tiny bit better for white. I would play, traditionally trying to provoke some weakness, use the extra space in those Benoni structures. But hey, he tried it out. It didn't work out. I think we're still going to see more of him, though. He's a very good blitz player. Played him a couple of days ago as well. Had some tough games against him. So I would be surprised if we don't see him back in the top maybe near the end of the event or something like that. Now we're waiting for a last game to finish. If you have any questions, please put them in the chat and I'll try to reply. So for those who just tuned in, my name is Robin. I'm from the Netherlands. Right now I'm streaming from Montreal, Canada. And I'm going to be doing the commentary of the 9 rounds here, Title Tuesday. This was a cool first round. And we've got one last game going. Huh? Oh, 10 rounds, sorry. It's 10 rounds. Excuse me, guys. It's 10 rounds. And, well, that's nice to see. You don't really see Knight Bishop versus King that much in blitz. So obviously the famous technique of winning this is creating this W, and let's see if White knows how to do this. He's an international master, so I'd be surprised if he doesn't manage to do it. But I'm looking at the chat. So okay, right now you go Knight to D2, yeah, and you go, I believe, yeah, like this. Knight to B2. You drag him into the corner. So you want this king to be here, because here you can deliver a checkmate with the bishop, right? So he's almost there. Now he's gonna go king b3, yeah. Let's say bishop d2. Now knight c4, knight a3, yes. Okay, check and checkmate. Perfect. I don't know. I see people are saying that it took him a very long time to win this. Once you get the hang of it, it's not that hard. I remember the first time I had to practice this, it took me like 5 minutes. But then once I understood the pattern, which is sort of like a W I was explaining, I managed to do it in like 30, 40 seconds against my sparring partner. So it's not easy, but he managed to do it in blitz with fairly low time. So, once you get the hang of those end games, you really should be able to do it. And we're off to round 2. So let's go to Mr. Dominguez here with white. I really think Dominguez is a really good theoretical player, so he's very experienced in these French positions that we have over here. This is classical French, and yeah, let's see. So this is a classical way of playing it. You're going knight to d4, just playing for that square. I wonder if he's going to change the bishops on c5 or keep them on. He decided to change. Now he'll try to go something like bishop d3, queen e3. And the other interesting question is he going to castle short or long? I'm thinking he's probably going to go for short castle. But both are possible. Obviously, the drawback of long castle is clearly that black is just going to push these pawns, and it's an easy plan for blitz especially. So short castle was played, and he's going to probably try to strengthen this if he can with c3, when black will try to undermine this knight on d4 with b4. So this whole position revolves around, can white maintain this knight on d4 whilst creating an attack on the king side. So he would love to play something like c3 and knight to g5, open up some lines there. This king is not weak right now, but it could potentially become a problem. One thing we might see black do in some cases is try to play f5, but right now white is going to take that en passant, and it's not a good look. So Dominguez here offering to trade the queens, and see, this is why I don't like playing the French very much. White kind of switched his plan there. I don't think he's necessarily going to be playing on the king side anymore, but he's still got this strong knight on d4. And yes, the knight on e4 looks nice, but it can be taken off at any moment, and it just doesn't put as much pressure as the knight on d4, which might be able to start the attack here with a4, putting this rook back on the queen side, or f5, putting pressure on e6. So yeah, now that the queens are off, f6 is a little bit safer. I think it's a good move. If white takes, he's going to take with the g-pawn, and he might have something going for him in the center, playing e6 to e5. But as an e4 player, I've got to say I still like this position for white. In fact, I'm very interested to see if he wants to play f5 here with the idea of knight to e6. It's, chess is super dynamic in these positions because black is going to come with e5. You've got to trade in your advantage and say, okay, the knight on d4 was nice, but my opponent found a plan against it. Now I'm going to try to put this knight on e6. And from there, it looks very dangerous potentially for the king as well, especially if you can get a rook on that half-open g-file. I think this could be something where we might see mating ideas. But even without those kind of threats, it's positionally very difficult for black to play around the knight on e6. So biostatistician is taking his time here, thinking, should I take on f5 or should I maybe play e5 and allow that knight? It's a pretty tough choice to make. I would say I would go e5 and then try at some point to get this bishop back to hit the knight here on e6. He's not really setting that up because the rook is in the way right now. Okay, Dominguez here. Okay, he's going for the pawn. Very understandable choice. I mean, Dominguez is a great technician, so like he will win most of these rook endings up a pawn and whatnot. He's very skilled when it comes to converting better positions. So I'm not surprised that he plays this way. What's going on, Chess Bra? It's nice to see you online, buddy. And yeah, John Bartholomew is also playing, guys. He just won a pretty good game against it was Nitki, so that's a strong, like 2650 around that rating, grandmaster from Cuba. Amon is not here right now. He's playing a tournament in Switzerland. And let's go back to this game. Black is trying to put up some sort of counterplay here. Obviously, the conversion is not going to be easy because black has this protected passed pawn on e5, which is hard to play around. It's easier for him to put pressure on white's pawns on the king side, and he controls the d-file, which white is not going to be able to challenge him. So what white should do is create some sort of a second weakness. I'm thinking he's going to go a4 here. At least he's going to strongly consider it. One thing he might be afraid of is, okay, what happens when this h-file is open up and black swings over the other rook there, thinking about creating some threats there. a4 was played. Very logical move. Like I said, regardless of whether you take on a4 or let white take on b5, one of your pawns is going to be a little bit softened up. So here, rook to b4 is going to come at some point. I'm not sure he's going to play it right away, but just the fact that black has to keep it in mind is a little bit annoying. Now, I like what black's doing here. He's playing pretty creative in terms of getting counterplay going. So how do you make sure you can use this d-file? Well, you don't actually want to play on the d-file for the rest of the game. He wants to play rook to g3 check, rook d3 next. And this is actually surprisingly the pawn that he's going to be going for. I'm not sure that white is even that much better here. It's gonna be very close because these pawns are not moving too fast. This h pawn is already quite advanced. My apologies, guys. Amon is playing a tournament in Europe right now, but he's actually taking part in the tournament. So if we get a chance, we're actually going to be looking at some of his games. I'm guessing he won the first round. But let's have a look, because this is becoming very interesting. I'm surprised Lanier is having a lot of trouble converting here. He would love to play rook g2, but then rook d1 check looks very dangerous. In fact, black might even be taking over here. If black takes over here, that's a huge turnaround. Like h3 is going to come, maybe this e-pawn will start running. So the question is, does black play king g7 now and say, okay, maybe we'll do a repetition of moves or some sort? Or is he going to go king h6 now, king g5? I like it. I really like what he's doing here. The problem is that rook takes f6, I can't actually get into this square on g5 because it's going to be checkmate. He's defending it. Okay, now he's got to push the e and the g pawn. I'm not sure about taking that pawn. It probably is a good move as well. Okay, this I definitely don't like. I really think that the rook should be active. Maybe Lanier is starting to get some play now as well, although the pawns are equal, so it's still unlikely that he's really better anymore. Thing is, as soon as this rook would leave the file, then the two pawns will start running, and especially as this rook is going to be hit with a tempo, it's going to be very difficult for for black. So Lenier is trying to find a way to get to this h-pawn. So he was just threatening to go through h8. Okay, that was prevented, but now he wants to go to d3. And what he really wants is, you know, just black picking up this pawn on f5 with this rook on g4, so this one. And then he can finally start running those pawns on the queen side. Yeah, so Lenier, okay, the good thing for Lenier is that the position still is very complicated and he has a huge time advantage. A minute up on the clock in a position like this might be actually the deciding factor. And he did exactly what I said, which again, I think black really had it going for him, but he didn't play actively enough, you know. Rook endings, of course it's important to be pawns up and so on, but his whole point was that he got that active play winning the h-pawn. And now what? Now the king is blocking the h-pawn, his rooks are not connected, the white pawn is advancing. So Lenier gave a couple of pawns back, sure, but he managed to get activity in return, and okay, I think we're gonna see black resign very soon. I don't think black has enough left here to really cause any problems. So it wasn't a perfect game by Sebastian, by Lenier Dominguez there, but I think he did a great job turning it around when it looked like black actually might even have been better. Let's move on to another game. We've got Tigran Petrosian, who's a real blitz expert, and as I tune in, he's winning the game. So he had a position with two pawns up and no counterplay. His opponent resigned here. Next on, we have my friend Cika from the Netherlands playing against Iturrizaga, grandmaster from Venezuela. And Cika here with white is up a pawn. He's up a decent pawn actually, but he's about to lose it, and he's gonna win the f6 pawn. It's gonna be very close. So obviously most 2-to-1 endgames are lost, are draw. It's especially rook endgames. But the question if he can play rook to f5 or rook to e6 and put more pressure on this pawn, and I'm thinking he might be able to do it. He doesn't go for rook f5 though, so he decides to cut off the king, which is a classic sort of thing to do. You don't want the opponent's king to become too active. But if you're committing your rook to the g file, then how are you going to be able to... Okay, he managed to do it. f4 now. That's the move I'm looking for. f4, he managed to trick him. Eduardo here with black should not have allowed that rook to come to g5, both attacking the pawn here on e5 and preventing the king from coming in over the g file. So now it's an easy win. Rook takes e5, you've got two pawns, connected pawns, nothing can really happen. Even if the king is on like a8 here, you go rook e6, there's no way to really get to those pawns. The worst part is that also the king on f4, it looks good, but it's actually completely out of the range, so he's just going to advance. Maybe he'll even start with his king. This is a lost game. So nice win there for my countryman Cika Ernst. Iturrizaga is really a very strong player, both in blitz as well as in normal over the board chess. So this is a bit of an upset, you could definitely say, even though they're both grandmasters. I'm going to switch to the next game. I really don't expect Cika to have any trouble converting this. He's bringing the king in now. Yeah, I think this should be... Well, he's pushing the pawn right now. Is he actually doing something wrong, or is rook e6? I think he's still... Yeah, so rook to e6, rook moves somewhere, f7, and then bring the king to the pawn. Should be done. And I think Iturrizaga is about to resign or flag. He flagged. Okay. Nice win there for Cika. And Aman is still playing. Aman username is KNVB, which I really like because that's the Dutch soccer federation. So Aman likes the Netherlands, which is why I'm going to be supporting him in this game. Unfortunately, he's down a full rook, and this is not really an ending that he's got any chance of holding. No real counterplay. He's down on the clock. I think, unfortunately, we're going to see Aman resign here any moment. Obviously, White's trying to set up this mating idea, just with both rooks covering the files. Okay, he might not get it immediately, but now he's trying to change the rook. Unfortunately for Aman, this is not going to be a draw. And I'm just looking in the chat. It's a very high-paced tournament, guys. So I might not be able to answer all of your questions, but if you do have some, just throw them in there, especially when, you know, not so many games are left. I might be looking at the chat more. So yeah, Amon's still trying to hold this, but I think I really do think it's time to resign pretty soon. All right, I'm gonna be moving on, seeing if there's any other games. This is Razvan Preotu here with Black. He lost this game against Marcus Harvey, who's a FIDE master from the UK, so a bit of an upset there for a Canadian, soon-to-be Grandmaster or Canada Grandmaster, I'm not sure. And we don't have that many games left, so let's go back to Amon. I'm surprised he even managed to hold it for so long. Okay, now changing the rooks, I think Amon's going to resign. Netherlands has 3 World Cup finals in football, I know, and we never won any of them. So it's a bit bitter. The KNVB has to step his game up. That's just the truth. Yeah, so Amon losing here, but Amon's a good blitz player. I hope that he's going to make a comeback after this. After all, he was playing a Grandmaster, so this was probably a tense game. And we have one last game going, one of the lower boards. Okay, Black is completely winning here. He's going to run his pawns down the board. And then we'll see round 3 starting. So we've got 10 rounds, guys. And I think right now, my favorite player probably is Dominguez. I just think he's a very strong Grandmaster. And okay, you gotta be a little bit careful here. King to G1, don't get stalemated. Move that, actually bishop to F4 is fine. It's not stalemate, you can move the pawn, but you shouldn't have played like King E1 or something, right? So bishop H2 now, okay, he's queening. He's doing it perfectly fine, yeah. So got a queen, queen to G3, mate. And we're gonna be seeing round 3. As I was saying, my personal favorite to win this event is Dominguez. I think he's a great player. I liked what I saw there. You know, the technique wasn't great, but he managed to turn around a position which was very hard to win. We've got the standings up here. So we see Sebastian Lani there with 2 points, Tigran Petrosian. We see Andreikin with 2 points. Tesla 37. I have to look up who that is. Igor Kovalenko from Latvia, very good player. Recently really made a bit of a breakthrough in classical chess, hitting 2700 around that range. And a bunch of other grandmasters and other strong players. So we have Grigor Grigorov here. Well, lots of people still with 2 out of 2. No one really running here for you know, for the first place yet. Let's move on to the next game. I'm going to be looking at Andreikin's game because we haven't seen any of him. And I'm not regretting my choice because he's playing some really funky chess here. So let's quickly go through it. This was a Caro-Kann and some sort of a sideline. And here H4, I'm really liking it. I'm not even sure this is blitz chess. And just to make sure we all know who Tesla is, Tesla 37 is actually Grandmaster Movsesian from Armenia. He used to play, I think, for Czech Republic or Czech, I don't remember, but he's playing for Armenia these days, part of their team. Very good player. Peak rating of like 2750, so definitely someone to watch out for. And he likes to play blitz, so I really like this game. He's throwing out the H4, H5, H6. Obvious idea is to just make sure this bishop has as much of a scope as possible. And honestly, this doesn't look good at all for Black. If you go like knight to H5, you might be going G4. Maybe he's going to play queen to C7, but honestly, I would be surprised if he's not already losing a piece. G4, that's the end of it, to be honest. It's just, I think it's just winning a piece. G4 I'm expecting, and okay, he's giving him check. Maybe he wants to trade first, because I think it still works afterwards. Why I'm saying G4 is because if you take that pawn, obviously this is exactly the point that the bishop is hitting H8. So I'm not sure why he's not playing it. But even any other move, I still like White's position. But as far as I can tell, it really wins a piece. So bit of a mistake there, maybe. Still G4 is there. Okay, he puts the knight on E5 so he can just take back the pawn. But as I said, it wasn't necessarily needed. Okay, when you're down a piece so early on in the game against a strong player like Andreikin, it's very unlikely you're going to be able to make an upset. But with this knight on E5, you know, there's a little bit more counterplay because you can attack it. F4 you don't really want to play because it allows stuff with the knight coming into the king side. So maybe he'll put it to D3 and it looks like the most solid move. Or queen to f4 I like a lot as well. Definitely a decent move too. Black is probably going to play g5 here, just trying to, trying to somehow attack that queen. Okay, he does it slightly different way. Okay, I mean, black is really trying to create some chances here. Of course he should. Unfortunately, d2 is still covered by the knight on b1, so there's no direct tactics. I guess the main thing is still just knight to d3 consolidating. I mean, knight to d3, you're changing the queens, you're attacking the rook on h8, and as soon as the queens are traded, it becomes, quite a tough position for black, especially because you just don't have, you don't have a piece, or you're down a piece. Against such a strong player, it's not going to be a easy game at all. But okay, he's changing. This might look a little funny putting the king out in the open like that, but he's just going to go rook e1, king c1. Honestly, there's one check on g5. He can play f2, f4. Not a big deal at all. So I'm expecting rook to e1, king to c1. Maybe he even thinks to himself, I'm going to stop d5, d4, which I think is going to happen now, because black tries to open up the position somehow, right? But again, I think Andreikin's going to win this easily. I want to switch to another game. I really don't see white losing this. So I'm predicting a win here for Andreikin. Let's have a look at, again, Dominguez playing another strong grandmaster here, Pavel Tregubov. He's playing for France, or actually might be playing for Russia, but he lives in France, I believe. So definitely Dominguez, again, with the type of position that he likes. He's up a clean pawn here. Probably you even have to give up the bishop here on f6, otherwise rook to c2 will cause you some real problems. So what is he going to do? Is he really going to take on f6 and play down a full pawn, also 40 seconds down on the clock? Again, I've said it before and I'll say it again. Once Dominguez is up a pawn and you don't have counterplay, it becomes very unpleasant to hold these types of positions against him. This is what he enjoys, and especially in blitz, he's not going to make any blunders or something. So if someone's going to beat him, I feel it's going to have to be a lot more of a sharp game, because positionally he's just so strong. So bishop to d4, he's thinking right now. That's, we're going to get back to this game. I think it's going to go on for a little bit. I want to see who's on board 3. It's Igor Kovalenko from Latvia. Yeah, he's been playing really well. He wasn't that well known a couple of years ago, but he's been really pushing his classical chess, especially. Also a good rapid and blitz player, I believe. For example, he beat my countryman Luc van Wely in the Olympiad, which was a very important win for Latvia in our match. But that being said, here, his position really depends just on one thing. Can white get to play d7, d5, d6? While having a queen and the rook on. If he manages to do that without Igor being able to go queen d6 and block that play, then he's going to be in trouble, because you'll have both the passed pawn and the weaker king. The weaker king, obviously, because yes, he has pawns on the queen side here, but on the other hand, these guys are really doing a good job keeping any play away against white's king. So I'm expecting something like queen to c5. Maybe it's not even that bad for black, but I definitely prefer this a lot in blitz. Again, playing with the safer king is just so much easier. You don't have to worry about checks, you don't have to worry about too many tactics. Rook to e1 is also a nice move, aiming at this e8 square. Question now is he going to give a check on h6? I guess so. Queen to e2, he might be able to take on d6. So rook e1 is a bit of a risky move, but still, white is in the driver's seat here. Definitely a good position. He's going to check on f4 now, and there's no easy way out here for black. There really isn't. So queen e3. Okay, he's threatening checkmate, and also maybe he wants to go to this side of the board. The main thing is that white is low on the clock. So if Igor manages to sort of maintain this position and not lose any pawns, or something bad happens to his king, his time situation is definitely very favorable. So right now white's trying to bring this rook in over the f-file. It looks very dangerous, but maybe something like queen to e6 will keep it together. If he can defend this quickly without losing too much time, he might actually be able to flip this around. I wouldn't be entirely surprised, although clearly white's much better. Maybe rook to f4, rook to f6, you know, just trying to get those pieces to work as actively as possible. This is also a nice construction, trying to go rook to e8 check, then playing rook to e7. Again, trying to use this d6 pawn as really kind of a distraction from any sort of attacking options or defending options that black has. He has to both make sure that rook to e7 here, for example, doesn't work, and defend that king. Now, rook to e7 is very tempting, but he's going to take, he's going to block the pawn with his queen, and he's not satisfied with it. I like the move he played a lot more. Queen to e5 check is coming, then rook to e7, and then maybe he'll find some queen endings that are actually just winning for white. So queen to f5 is a little risky, I think. Oh, we're getting very close to a checkmate now. Queen to d4 check, king to g5, h4 check, king to h6 over here, and he's getting mated in the corner. Very nice game by white. As I said, the time situation was getting tricky for white. 14 seconds is definitely not a lot, but that d6 pawn is so annoying to play against. So I really think what the white player here, Masik92, did a great job. And tough game for Igor there, but that was a tough, really difficult position to defend. Let's go back to Samonov playing against Vrolijk, who's a Dutch player, and it looks like white is close to winning. Really depends if he can get b7, king to b6 in. This is actually an interesting endgame. Black might be just in time to get enough counterplay. King to a6, king to b7 is maybe an idea, but maybe black can hold this. Black just offered a draw. Maybe they've been playing this kind of position for a little while. I don't expect him to take it. I would be very surprised if he accepts a draw. Reason being that, you know, white doesn't really risk anything. He can play king to a7 now. Even if he loses both pawns, I mean, he's going to be able to hold rook versus bishop. So why would he take a draw? He's way ahead on the clock as well. In fact, I think he's just, you know, found the winning plan. He's going to go bishop to c8, breaking the connection of this rook to the b8 square, and it's going to be an easy win. Done. Very good plan there. Managed to find a way to get the king to support the b6 pawn, or the b pawn, get it to b7, use the bishop to promote it. All right, let's move on. And most of the top games are done. Let's have a look at Spartacus 1975. I'm not sure who this is, but definitely he has a lost position here. Down a bishop and a rook, down a bishop and a pawn. With rooks on, it's going to be an easy win. He's going to push this pawn, and there's really not much to talk about. Aman won his game, so we're cheering for Aman a little bit here. He's got 2 out of 3, so he might be he might still do some damage later on in the tournament. He's going to be playing stronger players now. So Spartacus 1975. I wish I would read. I think he's Russian, but he's got his name there on the website in Russian, so I don't know who he is. If anyone can tell me in the comments who Spartacus is. Not the mythical, you know, figure or the hero, although this guy might be a hero too, but I'm just talking about the chess player here. Anyone can tell me who he is, I would really appreciate it. Can't read his name on Chess.com, unfortunately. He's going to be losing this game, and I'm going to switch over to the next one. We've got Cruel Yaro. I'm going to look at John's game here against Yaroslav Zherebuch. Someone we talked about a little bit, you know, when the US Championships were going on. He did a very good job. He recently started playing for the US. He's originally from Ukraine. I played him a couple of times before he moved to the US. He's a nice guy, very good player too. I'm surprised that John didn't get his king to activity there. King h4, king to g3. I think he was actually drawing that game around that moment, but they're both low on time, and it's easier for white to play. Again, blitz, you know, time management is such an essential part. Now he's threatening checkmate, but John is finding a way to get his king back to activity. In fact, he's going to be able to maybe play knight h4 and then knight f3. It's so tough to defend. And now probably Yaro is going to be looking to, yeah, he's going to be taking on g5 and then push the pawn up. John can't maintain the attack on the h3 pawn here, so yeah, he's dropping the pawn. I think maybe knight to g1 was actually still an interesting idea there to hang on and attack that pawn. But now this must be, well, Is it Yaro's game already? It is, because he's going for a winning version of Rook versus Knight. Very nice. Good technique there by the newly American grandmaster. So very good stuff there. Tough games, really tough games. I like a lot of the fighting chess I'm seeing. 3+2 is just a great great way of playing blitz. I like that there's not like crazy flagging going on, but there's enough there's enough to really use the time to your advantage, especially in these difficult positions. So way better tempo than 5+0 or something like that. Here we're seeing, for those who don't know, so how do you draw rook versus bishop? Well, this is exactly how you're doing it. We're seeing here Neko Chabo with playing with black, trying to win it, but his opponent's doing a good job. So you gotta go to the corner where your king is not, like the corner that's not your bishop's corner, basically, right? So you always have this stalemate idea. Rook h3, stalemate. Bishop to c2. Again, try and mate me, it's not gonna work. Bishop to f5, is he close? I don't think so. Bishop to h7 should work. Again, as long as you got this stalemate idea, you should always be a draw. Yeah, gotta move the bishop out now. The only thing you want to be careful with is that he doesn't check you and then moves the rook back. I don't know why he's not trying it. There is like 1 or 2 tricks here, but it definitely should be a draw. So this is one of the last games going. Then we're heading into round 4 already. Robin should seriously learn Russian, given his rating. I do think it would be, I understand it's a little bit expected that once you cross 26 or once you become a grandmaster, speaking Russian is really great. Unfortunately, guys, I was too lazy, I guess. But we're heading into round 4, and we've got some big clashes over here. So my friend Cika is actually playing Dominguez, who managed to convert that extra pawn or extra 2 pawns where we were watching. He's got 3 out of 3. He's playing as my friend Cika from the Netherlands. We've got a Spanish on the board. So this is exactly what I expect, because Dominguez is a great e4 player traditionally. He's been dabbling with d4 and c4 as well, but he loves playing the Spanish with white. And Cika is a lifelong Spanish player, so they're just going to be taking each other on in these kind of lines, and they both sort of play what they really know. So we're seeing a bit of a strange line here with a4, not something I'm very familiar with. I believe I actually had a couple of blitz games against Lenier a few days ago where he played this as well, and it didn't work very well for me. So I'm curious how Cika is handling this. He's putting the bishop on g4, saying you should have played h3 earlier, as you do so often in the Ruy Lopez. Now he's using the fact that Lenier hasn't done that. And okay, is he going to play bishop to h5, allowing a potential g4 later? It is sort of expected, but he could also consider moving it back to d7. Might not be such a bad idea. I don't like bishop to e6. I don't like it because Lenier is going to take on e6 and on e5, and you'll have this double pawn. And I understand that he's thinking, okay, the f file might become opened up. I might have pressure against f2. But with the knight on f3, I'm not really believing that his chances are that great for a counterattack. So Lenier is going to put the knight on f3, he's going to put the queen on c4, and what we see is all these pawns are a little bit shaky. So I think this was definitely a very good opening position for Lenier. Again, he's a good theoretician. Yeah, knight to b3, okay, stopping f2, stopping this bishop from attacking f2. Maybe you wanted to go a5. Okay, I'm expecting bishop to e3 here to happen. He just keeps going and going. I'm excited, guys. I want some energy in the chat. Come on. I want some energy. Give me some questions. Let me know who's your favorite player right now. I'm going to switch to another game. I want to cover a few games per round, so that we're not only following board 1. Let's go to Sergio Chess. Who's Sergio Chess? We're going to his opponent is Conrad Holt from the US. I believe he lives in Texas.
I think it's Sergei Gregorians.
Oh yeah, it's yeah. What is his last name? You said?
Gregorians?
Oh, Gregorians. Yeah, actually, I lost to him a couple of days ago. So what we see here is it's probably a fine position for black. He's down a little bit in development, but he's got the pawn on e5, the central pawn. He's ready to develop his pieces. Pretty equal position. So these players are on 2.5 out of 3. So they're just behind the leaders. H7 is now being attacked. He's going to go bishop to E4. Okay, white obviously wants to try and make the argument that B4, A4, and put pressure on the queen side with the extra pawn there. Black would be very happy to get in queen E7 and F5. I'm gonna have a look at GM Chess Queen because it's being requested. If I can find her game, it's Alexandra Kostenyuk, former women's world champion, but I don't seem to find her. Oh, there she is. So let's have it. Also on 2.5 points. I had to scroll down a little bit, but she actually has 2.5 points. So there's a lot of people here with good scores still. This looks like it came from some sort of a semi-Slav, maybe, or a Petrov. But she's considering queen to h4, threatening mate on h2, and then picking up the bishop with the queen. And I'm expecting to see that move played pretty soon. F takes e4, okay. Surprises me a little bit. I'm wondering what happens if I take the pawn on e4 with my queen. Thanks, Inspector Javert, for calling me your favorite player, although I'm just a commentator right now. Yeah, so queen takes e4. This game is going a little slow. I'm surprised white's even thinking about this because you can't let e4 and d4 just stand on the board like that. You're gonna have to take one of them out. Maybe he's thinking about d6 here, but it would be a strange decision. Maybe probably I'm missing a tactic, but I'm a little surprised by this. Knight to d2 has been played. Okay, it's inviting stuff like d3 and queen h4. This looks like a very promising position for black now. d3 definitely the move that I would intuitively play. And yeah, I'm gonna be moving on because the players are really taking their time here. But this looks like a very good position for Alexandra Kostenyuk, expecting her to get to 3.5 points out of 4. So we'll see her on a higher board on the next round if that does happen. Let's see if any of the games have finished. Not really. I'm gonna switch over to another favorite here in the tournament, Dmitry Andreikin, who we saw that he was a piece up in the last game, and I said he's gonna win that. Here it looks like we have, it looks to me like a Dutch opening gone very wrong for white, where white pretty much sacked everything on the queen side and is down a rook, down a full rook. No real compensation. I mean, yes, your knights look nice. Yes, maybe you can push your h-pawn in some lines, but this really shouldn't be a big deal. No. Okay, bishop to h6. This is winning another piece. So he resigns. Understood. Easy win there for Dmitry Andreikin. 4 out of 4 now. So still leading the pack there. Let's go back to this game between Cika and Dominguez. So actually Cika managed to consolidate his position a little bit, which I'm even surprised he got that far because it looked concretely sort of bad. Like I thought he was going to lose a pawn by force. However, that being said, I still don't like his position. I think Lanier is just going to take the knight off. He's got basically a good knight versus a bad bishop. Bishop on d6 does a good job preventing rook to d7 and so on, but it's still going to be a long game. Also, Lanier is up more than 30 seconds, so I think he's got a very good chance to win this game as well and join Dmitry Andreikin for 4 out of 4 there. Aman won again, so he's out 3 out of 4. Hopefully we'll see his game pop up on the higher board soon. And I want to have a look at Tigran Petrosyan, who I've never played him, but obviously since he's won the qualifier to play Magnus, he must be a very good blitz player. He's up a piece here, so again, at this point sometimes you tune in and there's just completely winning positions. This is one of them, to be honest. I mean, yes, black might get a little bit of counterplay against b2, but white might even be thinking about setting up a mating net here, with bishop to d4 coming next, and then rook to g7, and the king is really stuck in the corner down h7. So yes, this is not going to be a very hard one to convert for him. Expecting bishop to d4. Maybe f6 will be played. Okay. He's playing f6. He's not gonna get out of this rook g7 thing really though. It's gonna stay there. But he's hoping that the pawn on a5 will give him some counterplay. And what Tigran is doing right now is actually clever. So he's taking the a7 square, and I think his opponent didn't realize that he's actually planning to switch over to the a file on a6. So now he gets rid of this a pawn, then he can go back to trying to set up mating nets, obviously take care of these pawns here on f4 and e4, but you know they're not really threatening too much right now, so there's no rush there. And rook a8 is even nicer. Actually, I must correct myself. Rook to a8 was maybe even the main idea, with the a pawn also hanging, just creating a checkmate there. So nice way to finish that off by Tigran Petrosian. Also 4 out of 4. We're gonna have really big clashes among some of the highest rated players in this event soon. Let's have a look at Sergei Grigorian's. He had this equal looking position against Conrad Holt, and it looks to me like Conrad actually got the bet. Oh, I'm talking a little bit too quickly here because it's very complicated, but I think Conrad's up the exchange without any big problems. Players are very low on time right now. So, ooh, that's a very, very, very good trick. Bishop f5 winning. Wow, what a turner. I'm pretty sure that was not expected by Conrad. I'm sure he had a better position there, but he just fell for that trick. f3 is easy way to win here. But anything goes. Okay, so Sergei Grigorian's there really turning around what to me looked like an almost lost position. So he's going to be very happy taking away this game from Conrad. Yeah, this is an easy win. Who else do we have? We have Ilya Semyonovs, who, if you remember, won the first game against one of the favorites, Daniel Naroditsky. At least the favorite when it comes to Chess.com rating. Daniel is a very high rating, also a very good FIDE rating, obviously. So, and this is funny. So, a couple of days ago, my friend Lafon was asking me, Robin, how do I defend rook, bishop versus rook? And I don't want to get it too much into details, but the easiest way to do it is to keep your rook together with your king on the 7th rank or on the 2nd rank. And there's some stalemate ideas there. Some people might know what I'm talking about, but either way, you want to find an easy way to defend this. This is probably one of the most difficult endings to defend that is objectively a draw. There's so many examples of great players losing this, just not remembering the exact details. Very often you'll find that players get into this after hours of play, and they're just not fresh enough to remember the details about this. Definitely though, Ilya is not making it easy for himself, as far as I can tell. He's not playing the defense that I would go for, and he's actually dropping the rook here. So Marcus Harvey is putting in a very good performance here with 3 out of 4, and we'll probably see more of his games. We still have a grandmaster playing here. His name is Rumpel VK. He just drew his game through a stalemate, and yeah, that was one of the last games. So we're heading into round 5 already. In fact, I believe we started round 5. So no surprises here. Actually, Lenny Dominguez managed to win that game. He had a good knight versus bad bishop. It's not something that you can easily defend in a blitz game like this, especially those technical positions where you don't really have active defenses resources. It's so hard to just keep your opponents from increasing his advantage. Here we have a classical queen's gambit. Sorry, a queen's gambit accepted, and a4 is not. No, sorry, a4 is a normal move. c5, you're gonna see castles, queen e2, rook to d1, or maybe d takes c5 is the normal way to go. But now it's a good version for black. So I think maybe dc here is the idea. I'm not entirely sure, but there are some lines where you trade the queens early. I'm pretty sure this is gonna go to an isolated queen pawn position, which is a lot more exciting than trading the queens early on. So, okay, that's the opening here. Let's have a look at the opening on board 3, which is Sergei Movsesyan. He has a double fianchetto over here. This was probably King's Indian. As much as I love the King's Indian, I never really liked these positions for black. I always feel that you lack space. And specifically, for example, if white can just eventually start pushing all of these pawns here and manage to control the center, it becomes very difficult for black. That being said, for blitz, I think it's a great opening because there's a lot of sacrifices. Imagine I ever put my pawn on g4, I have to watch out for knight takes and the queen coming in. So in a blitz game, you might be a little bit reluctant to start moving these pawns too early on because it's hard to keep sort of an oversight over all the tactical motives that might appear for black there. So Sergei is taking it very, very slow here, which for blitz I think is a very good strategy. He doesn't want to take on c6 here because either immediately or later black will play b takes c6 and then suddenly the rook becomes a very strong piece putting pressure on b3. H5 typical, you want to go h4 and maybe if g4 you're gonna sack a piece there for 2 pawns and create some counterplay against the king. Yeah, I like this position for white. Now he's planning to go knight to d5 and try to create play over this diagonal. And the king will be in a little bit of an awkward position if he manages to carry out that plan. So I like the position for white here. Another idea could maybe even be to just put the queen on this diagonal. It's a little slow, but Sergei's been, hasn't been in a rush in this game so far. So yeah, I think this is definitely a good start for him in this round. Although black is still fairly solid. And maybe he has bishop h6 ideas as soon as he gets the defense of this knight going. Still h4 is there. Now we see the plan I mentioned earlier. Okay, so the knights were exchanged. Queen to b2 now is what I'm expecting. Queen to b2, putting pressure on this diagonal. And this is becoming better and better for white. So maybe next on he'll remove the knight and play e4 and f4 finally. In fact, I'm sort of expecting, okay, knight to rook to c1, attacking c7. Different ways to play this. But removing the knight and pushing this pawn would be my way to go. It's not solid. It's a maniac opening. Well, King's Indian, guys. I'm not gonna talk badly about King's Indian. So let's move on though. Slight advantage here for Sergei, and let's have a look at what Tigran Petrosyan has in his black game against Fischer Human, who I am not sure yet who that is. Oh, so this, as far as I know, this is kind of a trademark opening by Tigran Petrosyan here. So he went for some kind of modern defense, which is pretty much saying, I don't really care if you play d4, c4, whatever, I'm just going to play g6, bishop to g7, a6. And again, I can't find out who Fischer Human is because I believe his name is written in Russian. So if someone can tell me, that would be really great. Again, my apologies, guys, I just can't read it. So rook to g1 is a very, very odd move in my opinion. I would not be thinking about the g2, g4 plan here, but it definitely is creative. The thing is, as soon as you get g4, you do open up black's king's position, and it might be a good idea, but it doesn't really create weaknesses. So it's gonna take a while for you to go g4, take it, another move to the king, another rook to the king side, and then slowly but surely really okay, his name is Emil Mirzoev. Good to know. Thank you, chat. Learn Russian, Robin. I'm working on it. After today, I'm definitely going to have to work on it. Knight to e7, solid move. Honestly, though, the main reason I don't like these positions for black, regardless of whether I like this rook g1 move or not, is this bishop on g7 just has such a hard time getting into the game. And you could say the same about the bishop on d2. I just feel that with white having the space advantage and maybe specifically in this position thinking about c4 in some cases, it's a little bit better. Now, Mirzoev here with white is really slowly but surely setting up this g3, h3, g4 idea, and if there's no direct counterplay, it's going to be a very good plan. So I might have underestimated his move rook to g1, because right now I really like the direction he's heading with this. So maybe now he's thinking about putting something on the h-file, queen to h2 or something, or is he worried about something coming to b2? Definitely Petrosyan is going to be starting to look for some active counterplay. This bishop and this knight are both placed very awkwardly, so he's going to need some tactics. c3 is not hanging, but f4 is due to the pin. So we're starting to see tricks. I think if white would have a little bit more time on the clock here, he could definitely, turn this into a very strong attack. With the amount of time that they have, 35 seconds, it's anyone's game still, I think. f5 would be great, but it also opens up this bishop potentially when e takes f5 happens. So as long as there's no clear breakthrough on the king side, it's not over. It's very far from over. Rook a2 kind of expected putting more pressure on this second rank, and rook to f1. I feel like white is left without a plan. Like white's looking for that breakthrough, that f5 or something like that, but he's not getting it. So, but c4 is a very good move. c4, actually the knight is just trapped because he wanted to go knight b4, and he would have lost it due to this situation here on the second rank. So he's giving up an exchange for this, but again, there's so many pieces on the board that he might be able to really do some damage here as soon as he gets the active play on the queen side again. So d5 probably wants to take with the knight. White is doing a great job. White is really doing a great job here in carrying out his plans, but it's starting to look like it might fall apart. g4 is being taken off. Petrosyan is just playing very practical chess. He's not trying to play, the best moves or the best openings. He just wants a difficult game, and I think this kind of strategy is working out great for him in this game, where yes, his opponent really had it together for a couple moves, but now with this knight on f4 and g4, I would be very surprised if there's no mating ideas coming. So he's probably going to go queen e7 here, queen to h4. Don't get me wrong, it's still very sharp. If white can take the bishop off and not get mated, it's probably going to be winning. But I don't think he managed to. I think he just blundered the checkmate on f2. Queen e7, queen h4. I mean, it's impressive because obviously in a classical chess game, this kind of chess is very hard to pull off. But I understand that he's playing this sort of stuff in blitz. It works so well. So can't say anything else but a good game there. He managed to hold on to a bad position, create chances. Okay, he lost an exchange, but he never made it easy for his opponent. We still have Aman playing under his handle KNVB. And what is happening in this game? What is happening in this game? Rook takes c2. Okay, definitely I like black's position. He's grabbing a lot of pawns. White's king is probably a little bit weaker than black's, but most of all, I just don't see any open files here for Aman to try and get to the opponent's king. Definitely don't like changing the queens with these two extra pawns, but with opposite color bishops, maybe we'll see Aman create some chances to hold a draw here, although b4 is going to come. Bishop d4 is a nice move because it sort of takes away this important b2 square to prevent black's pawns from running. Yeah, it's close. I mean, especially since he's down on time, I would think that he's not going to save it. But Aman's very, very fast in time scrambles, so he might be okay here. Yeah, black can't really change the rooks because it's probably even objectively a draw at that point. But now maybe king to h6, king to g5, so let's say here. Trying to activate that king. I think this must be a win for black. Especially this plan seems very simple. On top of that, the pawns are running now, so Aman's going to be losing his bishop here. He's going to have to go bishop to d3, and rook to b3 will be played. Okay, rook to b3 was a direct win, but this will also be enough. Up a full piece, and they're getting increment every move. So 2 seconds is definitely enough per move to to win this. So Aman now on 3 out of 5. Probably a little disappointed to lose this game, which I understand. I think when we tuned in, it wasn't so bad for him, but his opponent, like I said, after he took those pawns, there wasn't enough counterplay to really make something out of it. So let's see what's going on in the chat. I have my buddy, I don't have anyone here except for my producer, Eric Kurtz. Some of you might know him, but no, we don't have anyone else here with us right now. Kostanyuk won with checkmate. Is she still playing? I mean, I guess she just finished her game then. Juan's one of the last ones playing. He's almost falling for a stalemate. No matter how you took that rook, it was pretty much stalemate if you took with the queen. But yeah, this is checkmate. Rook h1, rook g1, or any way you like. Queen g3. Okay. Too bad for Aman. He tried some tricks there near the end, which was nice. And we're seeing Masik92 here with kind of a theoretical opposite color bishop ending, and I am 99% sure that this is a draw. So it's like both kings are going to be running along these diagonals. Black is going to be doing it alongside a2, b3, c4, d5, and white's going to be doing basically this one and this one. And what you don't want, which is what happened now, is that both of these pawns are going to be on light squares, and as the king is following your king, you're not able to push those pawns up. If you get one of the pawns on a dark square, you might be able to sort of move far enough to distract the bishop, let's say, from the other pawn and turn this into a win. But now king to f4, and this is going to be a draw. The thing is that obviously this could take forever. Like black could go all around the board with his king, still protect his pawn, but they repeat it. So that definitely speeds up the tournament a little bit. This could have gone on for a very long time. All right, and we have a last game going, which looks like it's lost for biostatisticians. So off to round 6. And if we look at the standings right now, we see Cika and Petran, Andreikin, and Dominguez with 5 out of 5. And, you know, those are the guys that we've been following quite a bit. They're blitz experts and they're amazing classical chess players too. I'm curious who's going to be playing who, but whoever is going to be in board 1 is going to be one of the most important matches of the tournament potentially. So a big round, but we see many people also with 4.5 here. We see Kostanyuk, so we're definitely going to have a look at Kostanyuk's game next round, and as well as Sergio Chess, which is Grigorians from Russia, also very good players. So yeah, this is the standing, and we're moving into round 6. Dominguez against Andreikin. We're seeing a perk defense. A little bit of a difference here is that the knight's already on f3, so probably Andreikin is happy to see that. You don't have those very sharp systems with like f4 available, but generally most people will agree with me that these systems are still a bit better for white. That being said, talking about what we saw from Petran earlier, he also likes to play this modern defense where he gives up the center to his opponent, plays a little bit on the king side, on the queen side, and just keeps as many pieces as possible, makes the game very complicated, and outclasses his opponent in the middle game or even in the end game, right? So that worked really well for him in the game we saw. Obviously, it's not so easy to outclass either of these players. So Andreikin is just saying, I like playing these kind of positions, and that's it. I don't think there's any particular reason why you would play this against Dominguez. And we see a bit of a mistake there. e5 was a nice push there for Dominguez because he's up a pawn, and immediately I'm thinking Dominguez up a pawn once again. It's not the first time we see this scenario. It's going to be very hard. Now bishop to g5 is a very important threat. It was almost trapping the queen. White just doesn't want to get bishop to b7 looking at this knight, so maybe he'll play something like bishop to e4 or do something else to make sure that he can combine defending the knight and holding on to the d4 pawn, which is important, obviously, to stop this bishop on g7 from being active, and generally, holding on to that central pawn, always important. So definitely much better position for Dominguez. I don't think Andreikin is happy at all about his opening position. The only good thing he has going for him is his crazy time advantage of 1 minute so early on in the game. But is it worth a pawn? I wouldn't say so. I definitely wouldn't say so. But I'm a little bit surprised by the amount of time that he's taking. Bishop to g5 was played. I'm expecting queen b6. Don't like bishop g5 that much either. We're gonna get back to this game, but right now I'm saying maybe Andreikin will fight his way back into this game, especially considering the time. I think it's far from over. Let's have a look at Kostenyuk's game, who is... where is Kostenyuk playing? Should be near the top of the standings. I don't see her... which one? Oh, here. Over here. And oh, again, a position that is not entirely unfamiliar. We've been looking at, all the games that we've discussed so far in this tournament. We've got a French again. It looks a lot like Dominguez's game from one of the early rounds where I was talking about it's so difficult to play around these knights. Bit of a French hater here, so if you play the French, don't take this as a, oh, you should never play the French again type of advice, but I just think it's a little easier and a little nicer for White to play, especially in blitz. I would like to play knight to e4 here if he could. Something like knight to e4 and freeing up the d5 square. Instead of having the pawn there, you could put the knight there. Normally I would say these positions are a little bit better for White. I'm thinking this might be sort of an exception because Black is very active with those knights. If he can make something work with knight e4 or taking on c2, then this could turn into something very nice. In fact, maybe knight takes c2, knight takes c2. Oh. Knight takes c2, knight takes c2, something like knight to d3. There's definitely a good reason for multivitamin 73 to take some time here. So another French there, and we're gonna have a look at Tigran Petrosian playing against Sergei Grigorians. Another, the top guys playing against each other here. Initially, what I'm thinking is, okay, I really don't like this for Black because you can't castle. This bishop is very strong. But then, considering that this bishop is hanging and it's maybe not so simple to to really create play around there, it might not be that bad for Black. But as I said earlier, I really don't like playing with a weak king, especially in blitz. So knight to d6, okay, he's trying to get into a better ending, I guess, because knight takes d6 means we're going to see queens traded. My initial impression is that this is not, he's not optimizing the opportunity he had here. So everything's going to be traded. King to d7 will be played, and I doubt that White is even winning a pawn because always d4 is always under attack here, and I don't really see why this would be a good move, the queen trade. So I in fact would say I like Black's chances, and the reason I like Black's chances is because he's got this majority on the queen side, which resembles a little bit of a Grunfeld kind of opening where Black usually gets that. Now they're going for an opposite color bishop position with rooks on. I may have missed the tactic there because there was no particular good reason in my logic why you would go for this. This looks very equal. In fact, so equal that a draw offer wouldn't even be that strange here. White will consolidate with e3, putting the rook on c2. And I think we're going to see one of our first draws here very soon. I might even see a repetition happening here some way. Okay, let's move on to another game. I'm expecting a draw here. Tesla 37, so that is Movsession. Wow, very, very small amount of space for black here. So Movsession seems to be in trouble. But I've been wrong before when I called, something similar against Petrosian, another Armenian player, where he just, managed to shuffle around so many pieces um, in very little space, and he managed to, really flip the game around. Right here, I think, also looking at the time, I think Masik is going to put in another upset. We saw him earlier against Kovalenko play a great game. Knight to f6 was the threat there. All sorts of threats against his king. But okay, his king is also a little weak. If somehow, Movsession here with black manages to survive this attack that's coming towards him, he might have some chances, but g6 is locking up the bishop there. It wasn't played. I think g6 would have been an instant win. Instant win. Okay, now we see it, and I believe it's still working. So, is he gonna take? Ooh, there are some tactics now. There are some tactics with queen b2. You've got to be careful. Queen. It's too much. It's too much calculation for me to make a wild guess. But he's got b2 covered. That check, and he's got the rook attack twice. Yeah, this is a desperado. Bishop to d4. I think you can take it whatever way you like. I would probably take it with the rook, allow the queen to check, but as long as this rook is pinned, you're not going to get great counterplay. And Movsession resigned, so an upset there. Masik 92 really, playing very good chess this tournament, so I like his games a lot. Let's move back to see what happened in our top game over here. So Dominguez did not manage to hold on to his extra pawn, it seems, but now after rook h3, h4 is hanging, and you can't escape with the king because the knight will check you and take your rook. So Dominguez will actually be up a pawn in this ending, but there's so many pieces traded that I feel like this shouldn't be a big problem. Actually, rook h2 is holding on to the pawn, excuse me, and it's white who's fighting for a draw here. It's white who's fighting for a draw. The obvious idea is let's run to b6, try to get that pawn. It doesn't matter if you can just take it or change it for the pawn on b4. All you want to do is just make sure that, black doesn't get a hold on it with the knight and then picks up this f4 pawn. We're gonna see if Andreikin managed to calculate something that keeps it together, but I honestly would be surprised because the king is so close now, and the pawn will always have this b5 idea ready. So I think this is gonna be a draw. We're gonna see knight king versus king, which is just a draw. So king to b6. Okay, b5 is next. King b7 is also an option, but yeah, draw. All right, so I think that's a result that Andreikin has to be somewhat satisfied with, considering his bad opening. Let's go back to Kostenyuk's game, who is definitely winning in this position. She had that French game where her opponent was taking a lot of time. Now they're both very short of time, but up a full piece, nice bishop on f6. Again, I think all these, so far there's been very little sort of turnarounds in these endings where one side is down or down a piece. It's just so hard to make things work, especially with the 2 seconds. Those positions are generally not that hard to convert. So you'll see that grandmasters will win, almost every single time when they get a position like this. So she's going to be pushing her a pawn. She has to be a little bit careful of this g pawn. She always has rook g8 though, which is good. And actually now picking it up with her king. Okay, rook to g3 is an admirable effort here to keep it together. Good move. Black still sort of alive, but yeah, just one rook is it's really not easy to create significant counterplay. So rook to b2, rook takes g2, done. This is gonna be and he resigns. So again, what can we learn? I just wouldn't play the French. I wouldn't play the French in blitz, guys. I really understand that some of you are going to tell me Robin French is a great opening, but so far we haven't seen it perform very well. It's just, you know, you got to play the King's Indian, you got to play the Knighter of the Samonov or e4, e5. But I still have to see you know, a very good French game you know, being played here. We've got a couple of games left. This is going to be a draw. One of those positions again where you can try to, like, you know, flag your opponents for forever, which is good that we have those 2 seconds. What you want to do here as white is obviously take the pawn when it gets to e5. But also, perhaps more important, is just make sure that the king and the bishop are far removed, so you don't get any forks. Like for example, knight to d5 check there was a way to lose the bishop. So black is still trying. We just saw a draw offer. Most of these games where it's like you can try forever, we've seen that the sort of side that, you know, could decide to play on sort of decided to make it a draw fairly quickly. But black seems very determined to keep trying. So we might have a little bit of a delay going into round 7 already, I believe. And yeah, so this is gonna go on for a little bit more. That's the only game left. Yeah, so the 2 tournament leaders drew. Movsesian lost, but he already lost some points. And we're gonna have a look at the standings. Let's see what's going on in the standings. So we've got Alexandra Kostenyuk, former women's world champion, playing a very good tournament so far, so that's exciting to see. 5.5 out of 6. Tigran Petrosyan as well. Andreikin, Vladimirovich is his nickname. Dominguez, and we have a new guest in the top. We haven't discussed any of his games yet, I think. Jumanji 11, and I'm gonna try and get his name so that we know who this player is. These are the standings right now. Still a lot of players out there who could win. As you can see, there's many players with 5 out of 6 as well, so nothing's been decided yet. Okay, let's move on to the games. We've got another clash here of some of these players that we've been following. Petrosyan with black against Andreikin. Jumanji 11 is Vladimir Sakun from Ukraine. Actually not familiar with that player, but must have played some very good chess so far with that 5.5 out of 6. So we'll definitely have a look at his game as well. We're seeing so many like perks, modern defenses, which I like to play it a little bit in blitz, but I'm not confident enough to play it against players of this caliber. So I would stick to, you know, more conventional openings. But both Andreikin and Petrosyan seem to be doing well with it, and here they're facing off. So let's see who understands these kind of positions better. One thing Petrosyan's thinking about is, should I go bishop to g4 and take this chance to get my bishop out there, exchange it for the knight before some kind of rook d1 is going to happen. Now it's been played, and if you put a piece on d7, it's going to be very hard. Okay, he sort of commits to queen e8, which I don't think is a move you really want to play, but he keeps this option of bishop to g4 alive. I would like to play h3 to stop it as white, but obviously it's black to move, and I would be a little bit surprised to see something else than that being played. Okay, this is sort of you know, you can do this. A4, A3 is going to be white's reply. It's kind of a question who it favors. Petrosyan obviously thinking that he could probably use the squares that, you know, are freed up here a little bit more. White has the b5 square under control, and black will probably get b4 in some cases. But Andreikin actually sees this an opportunity to play e6, which is not a move that I thought about much, but makes a lot of sense, because if you're going to take this on e6, you're going to scatter your own pawn structure, which is not what Tigran is looking to do. If you don't take and you play something like f5, we've got a long-term problem with this bishop on c8. It just doesn't have a good way to develop. It would love to go to b7, but no way it's ever getting there. So I think very good opportunity there spotted by Andreikin, who definitely has a long-term advantage in terms of his pawn structure, I'm not entirely convinced yet this is so bad though, because Black's bishop is doing very well on g7. He's got all the knights. He's got all the knights out. Um, okay, if he manages to sort of uh, hold back Black's activity here, it's gonna be an interesting like positional struggle where Andreikin is definitely on top, but we'll have to see. Maybe something like rook to f5. I definitely prefer white at this point. Definitely prefer white. And we heard some sirens here in Montreal, guys. Sorry about that. So let's move on to Alexander Kosteniuk with black against Lenio Dominguez, and the police is after me. That's right. That's right, guys. I hope I didn't do too many things wrong today yet. But I like this position for white because he's up in development. But that being said, there's not any major weakness in black's position. I'm expecting queen to c7, step out of this d-file pressure. And this was another Petrov. I believe that Alexander has been playing the Petrov quite regularly in these blitz games so far, and she's doing well with it. So um, we'll see what Dominguez can do against that very solid opening. You know, there was a time when the Petrov was by far the most solid weapon, but nowadays we see a lot of Berlin. Actually, Dominguez himself likes to play the Berlin. Luckily, it's not much of a blitz opening, so for those who watch a lot of the top chess, you can get a little bit upset to see so many Berlin endgames, which might be a little boring. In blitz, most people don't really play it. You know, the positions are also way too complicated for many to really handle with such short time. So not much is being played here. Okay, I think Dominguez definitely has initiative here, both being like 50 seconds up and having a slightly better position. So knight takes d4. Oh, rook takes d4 with the idea of c5. Expecting Dominguez to try and set up an attack here, and we'll tune into this game a little bit later again. Let's move on to our friend, what was his name? Vladimir Kusic or something like that?
Second.
Vladimir Sakun here with white. He's down in exchange. This was definitely a French opening. And I was going to say he's down in exchange and he has some compensation. I'm not so sure he really does. Knight to e5 looks tempting to try and help this pawn move forward, but as long as black controls the pawn on d6, obviously he's doing very okay, and I'm expecting him to bring the king in if he can. This is also a logical move, trying to put pressure with the rook on d6. But this could still probably, you know, head both ways. It's pretty complicated. If black manages to just bring the king to like in front of the pawn, so something like this, then white really has to show, you know, some very good compensation, because most of his play is derived from this pawn on d6. It's very hard to support it right now. So you'd like to bring in your king, but once it gets there, it's not going to be easy to really continue that effort. Yeah, I think this is so far played quite well by black. Both players have some time on the clock, but I would not be surprised if we see Jumanji here lose his first game. Although there's still quite a bit of work left to be done. All right, let's move back to our top game, which is Andreikin against Petrosian. Oh, and here definitely a lot happened. So Andreikin did very well from the position we saw, where he had a bit of an advantage in terms of pawn structure. He's barely spent any time. He's got more than 2 minutes left on the clock. Up an exchange, up a pawn, and Tigran Petrosian resigns. So big win there by you know, a real blitz expert from Russia, and I already named him as one of the favorites, but he's really living up to that expectation so far. So a good game there by Andreikin, and yeah, this time that g6 d6 line didn't work out so well for Tigran. Here we've got Igor Kovalenko, who's making a comeback after his loss earlier. Here it looks like he might have a slight edge playing with the knight versus the bishop. yeah, all these players with 5 are still very much in contention to potentially even win the event. So there's lots to play for them. Sharp game here where black is sort of putting everything on this pawn on f4. Okay, he decided to give it up for this f pawn, and okay, white's up a pawn, down on the clock. Is going to be very hard to convert this. I think it should be close to a draw. Okay, let's tune in with Alexander Kostenyuk, who is playing the top game right now after Andreikin finished and won that. She has, it's still equal in terms of material, but she definitely has issues defending this position because rook to b8 is going to be played. She's going to have to go passive, and now simply queen d6, queen d8, and we see that this pawn had to be all the way on a2 in order to justify you know, any sort of defense here. So okay, Dominguez again with sort of little means, I would say, he manages to win these games, and it's because his technique is just flawless. It's really impressive. So this time he wasn't even up a pawn or something, but he had the more advanced pawn, and he just shows, okay, I know how to use these small edges and turn them into a win. So I guess we're gonna be seeing for sure at some point Dominguez against Andreikin we've already seen. So it's the question who both Andreikin and Dominguez are going to be playing in the next rounds. Let's tune in back with our with Jumanji, who's still that d6 pawn is not moving forward. Black managed to create a pawn here on h5, a passed pawn. Now picking up this a2 pawn. Looks like black is just really doing a good job holding back any play coming from white's side. Especially losing the a3 pawn, which is probably the right decision to defend. It would be annoying because another outer passed pawn would be created. So black now goes rook to d2, rook to d3, attacking this one again. Okay, white's going to move it back, and I'm wondering if he actually wants to take on d4. I doubt that's the idea. Yeah, it was just a temporary try, I guess. Still not so straightforward for black how to win this. You would love to just bring in that bishop and start playing against the king or something, but you gotta watch out for this. Now he is changing his h-pawn to create a passed a-pawn, and that's a good decision because this a-pawn is going to be much harder to stop as the white king finds himself completely on the other side of the board. So yeah, good technique here by Renato Terry Lujan. Is that his actual name, producer? Yeah, and we're seeing black, really racking up all those pawns, much better position, expecting white to resign anytime. Yeah, so his name is Renato. Yeah, and yeah, an international master from Peru, definitely playing like strong grandmaster in this blitz tournament so far. Also has a very high rating as far as I know on Chess.com. Almost 2,700 is definitely not a low blitz rating. So clearly he knows what he's doing in blitz games. And this game ended. I believe, yeah, white resigned. Igor Kovalenko is still trying to win, I think, up a pawn, and he actually managed to convert it. So that, I was saying it's going to be really hard with the low time, but as we can see, he managed to overtake his opponents in time. So he probably put up some very, big problems there for his opponent to solve, and it turned out that his c-pawn finally did win the game. So he's really working on a comeback here, and I don't think that's the first time I've seen him do comebacks like this. I also think in classical chess this is one of his signature sort of showing his character. So he's right behind the leaders right now, half a point away. And we've got Finns over here still playing. This is a drawn opposite color bishop ending. Not much to do here, I think. White controls the d1 square, equal pawns on the king side. We've seen a couple of these scenarios already, and it's just, yeah, not much to do here. So let's see if there's any other games. Marcus Harvey, who's been playing very well so far, is trying to beat Last Hero Junior. Sorry, he's trying to beat Last Hero Junior from Argentina here, and it looks like he White might be holding this with the bishop coming onto the d1 a4 diagonal. It's a little hard for me to see how black. I mean, you could definitely give up one of your pawns, but it's not going to be enough. So yeah, like I said, it's a very short diagonal, but it might be enough. The main reason you're putting it there is because it stops the king from getting to e1, or at least to sort of go from there. So yeah, White's now just setting up this pure white squared blockade now that the bishop can go to c2 and the king to e2. And again, opposite colored bishops. The one thing about opposite colored bishops is always, yes, on one hand, it really increases your attacking chances, but at the same time, once you get into an ending, the defending side can often afford 2 pawns down without really being in major risk of losing. So we're seeing basically the same thing on the other side of the board. First he was holding the king back from here, this diagonal, now he's doing it from this diagonal, and both work. So I was thinking he's even going to put the king on one of the light squares in front of the pawns, but he doesn't have to. He found a way that works and he just sticks to it now. And as he's getting every 2 seconds every move, I don't think that he'll be making any mistakes from here on. What shampoo am I using? It's a good question. I don't actually know. Yeah, it's a good point, Monozovic, that obviously what you want playing with the pawns here is that they're connected so that they can support each other, and then it becomes a lot harder. Then it's very dependent on the situation when it's actually winning and draw. But this one was a fairly easy draw for White. All right, last game. Still trying is Finns here, but as I said before, it looks so much like what we've seen in the previous game. Even if you win the f pawn, it's gonna be a draw. So there really isn't much reason to try on. But again, there might be a lot at stake. These players are all trying to finish in the top position, so whatever chance they get, they'll take it. Now, actually, king e2 would be a huge blunder because king to g3 would come, and you would lose your bishop out of nowhere. So king to f1, very precise. He's paying attention. So yeah, that was the key move, I would say, to drawing that position. I would say now king to e2. You don't have to hold on to this pawn to draw this position. You can now go something like here. f6. I'm really surprised to see f6. Why would you give black another passed pawn out of nowhere? It's still a draw. I believe it's still a draw, but no, maybe it's not. Is it still a draw? King to f2 is coming. Unnecessary, really unnecessary to take on that risk. I believe it's losing now because the pawn's gonna go to f3. Yeah, pawn to f3. King to e. Opposite color bishops. It's always a draw. It's still a draw because first of all this is hanging, so you gotta remove it. But then, okay, you'll queen. He's gonna take. And if he can get to h1, it's a draw. Can he get to h1? Yeah, he can get to h1. So why is this a draw? Because yes, black is going to win the pawn on h5, no problem. He's going to push it all the way to h2, if you will, but there's no way to get the king out of the corner, so that means you're gonna be stillmating White. So very narrow escape there by Jumagaliev. My Russians, I really have to work on my Russian, guys. But draw agreed. One of those positions in chess where you wonder how much material you can be down and still draw it, but this is one of the exceptions. So, and we're off to the 8th round, and already starting. Board 1 is Lenny Dominguez playing against Renato, from international master from Peru. So again, we see Dominguez likes to play very classical chess in these blitz games. He's going for Queen's Gambit accepted, and again he's inviting this ending here. This time his opponent actually goes for it. So Queen takes d8, King takes d8, and now White, theoretically claims I'm a tiny bit better because the king doesn't necessarily belong in the center, even though on e7 it has kind of a decent spot. So this has been a heavily debated line for I think decades by now. And generally most people would say it's okay for black, but black still loses games now and then in these positions. Obviously though, Lanier actually has a lot of experience in this. I remember working for my friend Anish Giri, who played him quite a bit, and this was always one of the lines that he liked to go for as a solid weapon against d2, d4. So I'm not surprised he tries it out in blitz as well. That was a very full glass of water. Alright. Well, it was very hot in this room anyway, so got a bit of water on me, guys, but I'm still ready to do some commentary. So I don't think this game is going to be very exciting for a while to come. Okay, both sides are going to be developing their pieces. It would be nice if I can get onto this diagonal, but they're both making very healthy normal moves. So let's say we're going to get back to that game a little later. I'm interested in what Alexandra Kostenyuk is, how it's going for her in this game. And we see some kind of a King's Indian attack here, which is strange because normally you have more of a Slav kind of pawn structure. She has a bishop on b7, which I'm not sure if it's a good or a bad thing. It's just something new for me. So I like White's positions, but I'm a little biased here playing King's Indian a lot myself. It looks a lot like those positions. So White definitely is creating a bit of a weakness around Black's king, but after giving a check here, which I'm expecting to be played, king here, I think Alexandra still has a pretty solid position. So this game, nothing major happened yet. Nothing major. So we haven't looked at any of Danny Ramch's games, and I see he's popping up in the chat quite a bit. So maybe we should have a look at his game, see where he is in the tournament, see how he's doing. If you see him somewhere. Danny's got to up his game, guys. I can't find him in the list here. I see a lot of GMs, IMs, but Danny's nowhere to be found. So I'm gonna have to move to Andreikin. If you can help me find Danny's game, definitely has to. He has to win a couple of games because I couldn't find him. But this game is about to end because h6, queen f6, queen to g7, checkmate. And so Sergei Grigoryan's actually with a very quick win over Andreikin here. Not a result that I would have predicted. Again, it's a French-looking structure. No, I'm kidding. This is not a French, most likely, but you have to be very careful once all these pieces are exchanged on the king side. Very few pieces can sometimes do a lot of damage. So, good win there. Very quick win by Grigorians. And Dominguez already ended his game. If anyone can confirm to me that that was a draw, I expect that it turned out to be a draw, but maybe someone blundered. So b5, knight to a5 looks like a nice move with the bishop on b7 hanging. Bishop to a6 is a good reply to that because now Alexandra is thinking about playing b4, and maybe the bishop can go to d4. In fact, I would even say black might be creating a bit of an initiative after b4. Definitely expecting this move. Maybe white will move the knight back to c4, which looks like a solid move. What I like about Petrosian's style is that it doesn't really matter when I tune in into his game. There's always a lot of pieces on the board, and I think that's really kind of his strategy. He's very confident that as long as there is enough material, enough to trick his opponent with, especially in time scrambles, he's just going to take over. So over here, just another example of that. And if that strategy works well, obviously it's what he's going to keep doing for the rest of these games. And he's still not too far behind the other leaders at 5.5 points. So if he wins the last games, he could still be at the top of the standings. Bishop to d4, attacking here, and also thinking that if, for example, pretty much after any move, you can still play b4 and try to attack this queen with the bishop. c5 I also like because it doesn't let the knight go from a5, which starts to look like a bit of an awkward square now. At the same time, you have to worry about this bishop being trapped. So yeah, c4 is creating some luft here for the bishop. So this game, Petrosian's up 15 seconds, which is quite a bit considering that both players are down to under 1 minute. I still think that he's gonna probably win in signature style here because it's starting to look a little bit better for him each move. He can now take the bishop. So I'll try to tune into this very soon again. I just want to see if there's any other top games going on still. We've got Conrad Holt here, still very exciting with a couple of pieces for the queen. It's probably very unclear, so this is far from decided. And one of the players that caused several upsets so far is Masik92, and also his position looks very unclear. So we've got a lot of interesting games. But let me move back to Alexandra over here and see how this develops. So she's down to 6 seconds right now, which is very low, and I think bishop to f4 is going to come, followed by e5. So again, as soon as things get really complicated in time trouble, it's really Petrosian that keeps outclassing his opponent. Is he just going to take the piece on f6 now? I'm thinking he probably will, but maybe he found something better. Oh. I think Alexander pre-moved this move, attacking the queen there, but she's down a piece in this ending. And as I said before, and as we've seen before, with a piece down, most of these players have no issues at all converting it to a win, or with a piece up. So unfortunately there for Alexandra, 2 losses in a row, I believe. Yeah. So let's have a look. Tregubov is also still playing. He's trying to convert this position, which is not even up a pawn, so this should be a draw. And I just want to quickly pull up the standings because most of the top players have finished here. Let's have a look. Oh, let me not this one. Oh, there we go. So 3 players with 7 out of 8. Fisher Human, I think we've looked at one of his games. I forgot who exactly it was. Maybe it was one of the players we couldn't identify. But it's really going to be very exciting until the end. So I guess Sebastian is going to be playing Sergio chess. Andreikin lost this game to Grigorians, who's in place number 2 now. But he could still get even with some of the top players here. And if I'm not mistaken, Petrosian, he already finished, so he's at 6.5 out of 8. Yeah, all these players finished their games, so still most of the players we've been following are very close to each other. As I kind of said before, Dominguez is my favorite to win this. I really think he's been playing well, and honestly, also probably the player that I know his chess best out of this field. So
Fisher Human is Emil Mirzoev.
Oh, Emil Mirzoev, that's Fischer Chess. So, yeah, from Ukraine, right?
Yep.
All right. If you have any suggestions for players we should really have a look at in terms of the games that they've been playing, if they've been playing really exciting chess, you can drop it in the chat, and might have time to have a look at it. I believe that there's still a couple of games going. Let's have a look at Conrad Holt here.
Check OBS.
Conrad Holt here, who lost his queen. He had a queen before against 2 pieces and a rook, and it seems like this is a loss with correct play by black. So let's see how his opponent is exactly going to do this. Obviously, it's a bit of a tempo game where you just want white to run out of moves, and eventually, you know, he's got to push both of these pawns, and he's got to let go of probably the e pawn. So bishop to b1, bishop to c2 back maybe. Yeah, so you can make another pawn move, but now you ran out of moves. So he's gonna drop the e pawn, and then yeah, it's done. So the good technique there by international master Gordy. And we still have one more player who's doing, as far as I've seen, quite well in the tournament for his rating, Marcus Harvey, but he's down a full rook here with a very weak king as soon as black runs out of checks. So this is also not a not a great position. So we're heading into round 8 it is, with 3 more rounds to go, including that one. And let's pull up the standings one more time before this round starts. So we have Dominguez, Grigorians from grandmasters from Russia, and Mirzoev from Ukraine, top 3. They're going to be playing against each other. I believe Grigorians and Dominguez haven't played yet, so it could be any of them playing. And then whoever is next is probably going to be playing Andreikin. Although I'm not an expert in these standings, I don't know exactly how it works. It might even be that you're playing with someone against 6 out of 8 because there's 2 with 6.5, but I believe we're gonna pairing something like that. So last game's about to finish, and then people are counting the amount of times I'm scratching my head. Guys, it's a lot of brain work, okay? You gotta think, gotta, you know, the shampooed hair and everything, gotta make sure it's in place. I have the fan. It's like a shampoo commercial over here. Chess.com shampoo commercial. So, yeah, I mean, you gotta touch the hair once in a while. This game's still going. Okay, so he just ran out of checks. And black is not checking him back. I would think that there would be almost a forced mate. But okay, now he can trade the queens, and or even checkmate with rook to b2 coming, queen f5 checkmate. Yeah, so we're moving on to round 8, and let's see what the pairing is. Oh, there we go. We have Dominguez playing against Mirzoev. So that's kind of the top clash here. And we're seeing a Philidor defense, which is not something we come across too much, especially in this move order where you have to really watch out for knight g5 ideas. I'm guessing it's sort of okay, but as soon as you go bishop e7, you always have to watch out for that move. combined with some sort of queen to h5. Looks a little childish, almost like very quick attack on f7. But I would think that taking a knight g5 is, for example, very interesting. So is he going to take with the knight or with the pawn? Okay, knight to g5 as expected, takes, queen to h5, double attack on the f7 pawn and the g5 bishop. And as we know, Dominguez likes these small advantages. So he's not claiming to be winning here, but he's got the bishop pair, he's got a tiny edge in the ending, and he doesn't like to take on a lot of risks. So this is perfect for his playing style so far in the tournament. I'm not sure I like putting the knight on f6 because you almost have to move it to h5 or protect it in some way again. Okay, king to g7 is a decent solution to that problem. But then again, the bishops is what really is the long-term edge here for white. So as soon as you get something like knight d2, knight b3, maybe a4, a5, as if black can't change those bishops, you'll have a long-term advantage, especially on the queen side. So we're gonna move on to the next game, and that is Gregorians here with black playing against Renato Terry. And we're seeing a sort of a London system, very quiet, all pieces still on the board. Honestly, not that much has happened here yet. Neither, no one can really claim to have an advantage here. White might be thinking about loosening up the queen side at some point, but yeah, he's planning to trade a couple of pieces now. A little bit of a boring position, to be honest. I don't think we're going to see all that much happening here. It's going to be some kind of positional, back and forth type of game. Maybe knight to b3, try to loosen this up. But black is totally fine here. Not a very ambitious opening, but at the same time, there's nothing wrong with white's position either. So one interesting idea we could see is maybe b4. If you don't play c4, which I do think black will play, we're going to go with the knight to b3 and then with the knight to c5. And that could give somewhat of an annoying advantage. And Sergio Chess actually offered a draw in this position. I don't know why he did that, because I like his position. Maybe f4 is what white should do, but okay, if black manages to go e5, I like it for black. So, okay, they agreed to a draw. And that means that the winner of the match between Dominguez and Mirzoev here is going to take the lead in the tournament heading into the last two rounds. So what is happening over here? White, obviously, only white can be a little bit better here, but it seems like black has sufficient counterplay, especially if he can take on d3 and attack that pawn. He might restore the material quality here, and I don't immediately see what white's gonna do. He could try to give up the c2 pawn, which is a very risky strategy, try to go for this. I don't think we'll see Lenier do that. Maybe he'll just protect the bishop on d3 so that he's ready to take back with the rook. And one of the scenarios we could see here is maybe a 4 against 3 rook ending. So if that happens, again, we'll see some kind of technical effort here by Dominguez, which is what he's been doing for most of the tournament. So king to f8, stepping out of any e6 moves. Bishop to c4 is starting to look very tempting, but maybe it's still too soon, because the d pawn is going to be very hard to stop once you lose this pawn. So I would say odds that this is going to be a draw are high, but if Dominguez can come up with some sort of a plan to force a 4 versus 3 or something like that, rook ending, an ending up a pawn, then even a simplified version of it could maybe still offer some winning chances. So let's move on to some of the other games, and we've got Andreikin, who just had that really quick loss that was quite painful, I think, where he got mated. And here he seems to be in good shape attacking black's king here. Okay, black doesn't go for the exchange on d1, rather keeps the defense going here. And white has a lot going for him, but there's no easy way to break through here. So maybe he'll try to consolidate with b3, put another rook on the g or the d file. Okay, he's already thinking about capturing. Actually, if black doesn't have some kind of counterplay, it's going to be very hard to stop white from, taking over on the king side and going for mating threats. I think queen to f3 is pretty much forced. You got to protect this bishop on h5, which was under attack, as the pawn on g6 over here is pinned. So what are we going to see next here by white? You'd like to sort of break the connection between the queen and the bishop, but I don't see a very easy way to do it. So maybe black is still alive in this game. Okay, now ideas like bishop to e2 are there, but also black could maybe try to change the queens, which maybe it's not a good idea objectively, but it would definitely simplify your task. It's admirable that he doesn't do it. I would have been very tempted to get this attack, out of the way. Producer should get a promotion. I will let my producer know that he's doing a good job. If you like my producer's work, then give him a little shout out in the chat. So a hardworking guy. So okay, we're seeing actually Andreikin going for a queen exchange. I don't think he's playing it the best way, but he's hoping that the bishop here will be out of play even in some endings. I'm gonna switch to the next game. I want to see what's going on in the game of Dominguez versus Mirzoev, and we're seeing kind of a scenario that I had in mind. Although Lennier is not up a pawn yet, he's still hoping to get into some sort of position where he might be able to get a better rook ending. But in fact, he must have blundered. He thought he had a mating idea here, but he just gets out of the way with the king. He had to get out of the way with the king after rook e1 check, and now there's no way to stop this pawn without losing at least a rook. But in fact, yeah, rook to e6 check is a great move, really great move. Dominguez is going to resign because as the king has to move away, you get the queen. I'll put this on the board if I can. Something like this. Black would get a queen. Check was what he was hoping for, getting the queen back, but no. Rook to d6, and obviously this is an easy win. So very impressed by this player that I honestly haven't heard of before, but he's playing really great blitz chess. So Mirzoev, grandmaster, international master only actually, in the lead, and with only 2 rounds to go, he has a very good shot at winning this tournament. Let's move back to Andreikin, who, okay, this is a better ending in most cases. We're going to see him try and trade the bishops, and with him I mean Gordy is going to try and do that if he wants to play actively, but he's going for a more passive defense. I would have tried to get, to b3 under any circumstances to get to the king, and it's hard to play against in low time, but the players are getting very short of time, so mistakes are bound to happen here. I don't like white's prospects because h4 is going to be lost, then g5 will come. I think he could have, no, he couldn't have taken that pawn because of this move, which is played anyway now. Okay, so Andreikin still sort of controlling this, but it's honestly any result is possible here, I would say. Although black now has to be careful not to lose his bishop. Alright, and actually he managed to trap the bishop. Sorry guys, I was just looking at the chat for a minute. He managed to trap the bishop and, recover from that quick loss in the last round. So you can't write Andreikin off quite yet. He's still he's still in it for some of the top spots there. So we've got Ilya Semyonovs here, who also he lost this game. He was covered in one of the early rounds in the first round against Daniel Naroditsky, and I'm thinking either Daniel left the tournament or he's not playing well, but he left the tournament, so he obviously had a very bad start. I don't know if he tried the second, third round, and so on, but the first round loss really hit him there, and he decided it wasn't worth continuing to play. One last game left, and then the question is really who's going to be taking on. Actually, bring up the standings here for a minute. And okay, we don't have our tournament leader in the standings, it seems, so something may have happened there. It's Andreikin and Grigorians in the lead, which means that something was going on there with Mirtsoev. He's not in the tournament. I can't imagine that he dropped out, so he must have something must have happened there. These players with 7.5 out of 9, so we have one more round to go. Or has the round already started? No, the round has already started. We have this game and one more game to go, I believe. And let's have a look at who's playing each other. Who's playing who here? So finally we're getting this this match going, which was sort of bound to happen. Dominguez against Grigorians, and yeah, I'm not a fan, guys. What can I say? When the Berlin is played and you go for the rookie one line, which I'm very guilty of playing this as well with White. Played some very boring games here, but especially with that experience, I can honestly say this is just not very interesting and very high drawing ratio. White tends to do a little bit better in these positions, especially in blitz, but it doesn't look like he's been playing very aggressively or something. So I'm suspecting this is going to end in a draw. We saw Grigorians go for a quick draw as well in the previous round. So yeah, a lot of pieces are being changed. We might see Dominguez here with black actually try to create some play, maybe try to put the knight on e4 and switch things up a little bit. But I'm going to go on to the next game and see if these players are going to draw very quickly or not, because I expect a quick draw there. So this position, here we have Andreikin with black. He just won that game where he trapped the bishop, and I like his position here. And the simple reason is that the knight on c3 in these structures is just misplaced. So it's way better to have the pawn on c3 and a knight on d2, kind of like a Slav or something. But what are you going to do with this knight? It can't really move anywhere. You always have to watch out for your c2 pawn hanging, and even if you do, get it to go to a4, then your dream is to go c4 and move it back anyway. That's why people play c4 so quickly in almost every single d4 opening. It's because the knight on c3 alone is misplaced in most openings. So I'm thinking, taking on c2, you gotta move the queen, the knight's maybe gonna jump in. Okay, he didn't take the pawn, and so maybe he gives white a chance to at least consolidate this a little bit. But obviously black can take over the center now with a very nice position. So this was not a good opening by Wittek from Russia. Yeah, now having to move the knight back to a3, it's all a little bit artificial. So let's go to Renato, who's been playing a great tournament as well. And finally, I'm getting some positions that I like. So here we see one of the greatest openings, which is of course the King's Indian. I like black's position. He's gonna win a pawn. He's gonna maybe try and throw f4 in there. I'm expecting queen takes g5, but you've got to be a little bit careful with this bishop that has a scope on your queen. So that's why knight takes g5 was played, which is probably a good decision. And I don't see anything wrong with black's position. He's up a pawn. He can try to move his king to h8. The biggest thing here is not necessarily you're up a pawn, you're better. It's more that White's king is going to have a hard time really finding cover. So as soon as black plays king to h8 and moves the rook, white is going to probably move his king to the h file as well. But there you see that this pawn is it's kind of like working as a defensive resource more than anything, and that's the reason why I like black's position specifically. Obviously, there is something to say for white's position. He's got a great blockading knight here on e3. He can also put the bishop to c3, which is a really nice square for maybe future attacking chances. But yeah, as long as black has that extra defender around the king, I still think he's a tiny bit better. So I like Renato's position here. And let's go back briefly to Dominguez and Grigorian's. Yeah, this is, again, the position is still very equal. Black has not going to be able to play for a win out of nowhere with queen to a3 or trying to grab pawns, because king is just a little bit too weak. You have these mating ideas as soon as you give up the defense. So I'm expecting, you know, some trades of the bishop and the queen and a draw agreed. So we're moving on again. It's a good question, where is Tigran playing? I'm actually not seeing him play either. So either he won a very quick game or he decided to drop out. I'm gonna move on to Grigor Grigorov, someone who we haven't, you know, really covered that much at all. So it's 6.5 points and his opponent 7. And this looks like also kind of a King's Indian structure, or a Benoni wall if you want, where honestly it looks kind of fairly equal, but I like black's chances if you can get the queens to be traded, because you can attack c4. This is a nice move by white, knight to f3, hoping to go to e6 and keeping a lot of life in the position. Obviously the downside is that black has this great square on d4 for the knight, so still a very unclear game here. Yeah, h5 kicking the knight back, but still this is the main plan. So this knight might have to play a defensive role. Okay, let's go back to Andreikin's game, who is only, is he half a point behind, I think? Or, yeah. And a lot has happened here. He's managed to set up a bit of an attack on the king side with h4, which looks very dangerous, especially if I play something like this. You might immediately start seeing the queen drop in. I'm expecting queen to d6 right here, or queen to c7 with the same idea. So you want to get, you want to use the dark squares here to get an attack going. And actually, I think we're seeing him get to the point here where he gets a totally winning position, because white's going to have to move his f-pawn, it's going to be taken, and then just move the rook, get the queen in. And even if you only trade the queens, you'll get these two incredibly strong connected passed pawns right in front of white's king, which is just not something I see white really surviving. So he's putting up a little bit of resistance. He's hoping to get some check maybe in and then, you know, attack the bishop. But I think black has time here. I was going to say king to g7 as well, and okay, he is putting up good resistance. Changing the rooks is something that definitely favors white, but a lot has to happen before you really get rid of this attack. Maybe the move d6, preventing the bishop from entering the attack and then trying to get your own bishop in, hasn't been played. Now I'm expecting bishop to g3. And it feels to me like black should be able to find a way to white's king, but it really isn't so easy. So Andreikin here trying to look for an opening. It's not, after the rooks have been changed, it's becoming a lot harder to turn this attack into a win. Still better for black, maybe through c5 or maybe e5 and then b2, queen to g3 now. Okay, now he's made some real progress. He can take this. The pawn on h3 is going to be hanging with a check. And yeah, now it can't really go wrong anymore. Again, it's all about, it's not just the amount of pawns, it's all about where the pawns are. And now, especially with queen g2, just going for a winning ending, I think we're going to see white resign this position pretty quickly. Yeah, bishop to d4 check and queen. Just doing my hair commercial there, guys. And we still have the top game going, so at least this became a real fighting game. I think the main reason is that Dominguez doesn't have that much reason to be satisfied with a draw. I mean, there's only one round left. He's correct. Only one round left. He's down half a point behind Andreikin and Grigorians, and so he pretty much needs this win, to really stay in the race for first place. Although right now, obviously, Andreikin is the one who's looking to take first place. Even though he lost that one of the games very quickly, he's been beating most of his grandmaster rivals here in the games he played. Yeah, this is still not gonna go anywhere. I mean, if you want to play for a win, the Berlin is just, there's a couple of lines that white really can play very sort of slow and boring chess. It's hard to really get something out of it. White can just move the king up or move the bishop here. It's very hard to create chances at this point. We need to clip all the hair bundling together and put good music to it. Maybe we could like sell it to I don't know, some shampoo brand. Yeah, a lot of speculation about what happened there to Mirtsoev, but he's out of the tournament. And it seems that Dominguez isn't going to be winning this. Andreikin, very likely going to take it away. It really depends on his last round's opponent. I'm thinking, for example, if he plays Kovalenko, which I don't know if he's still in the top of the standings, but that would be a hard opponent for the last round, especially with black. But I guess he'll have white most likely. There's a couple of players that will go all out against him, even if they could still win a prize. There's some people who are going to be taking a lot of risk in that last round and try to get second or something like that, or first. And there's some, and I think Grigorians right now, he's satisfied with maybe second place or third even, just making these draws at the end, and he's satisfied with his performance. He knows that, let's say 8 out of 10 is a really good score. 8.5 is definitely top 3. So I'm guessing that is his reasoning. This is gonna go on for a while. I don't know exactly why. My bad, guys. I realized this is the last round. So okay, I really don't understand the opening choice by Lenier, but if he could get the king to c4, but there's no way how, then there would have been maybe some point in trying this. But so we've got Andreikin. Let's actually bring up the final standings. Yeah, so Andreikin definitely took it there. Guys, sorry, I got a little confused with the Mirtsoev situation, so I didn't pay attention to the amount of rounds. So we can actually predict. So Grigorians, he's gonna draw. He's gonna get 8 out of 10, and I'm not exactly sure. Yeah, he will definitely get second place. If you look at the points next to their actual score, then he will get second place. And so Krizan 94, who sort of came up at the very end of the event. He's gonna take third place, and Renato, who's been around around the top for most of the events, is gonna take fourth. So yeah, there we go. So this was a draw. Dominguez missing the final the top three. Played a good event, but didn't have the the results at the very end to back it up. So that's it. Congratulations to especially Andreikin, who had a great recovery from the loss, and Grigorians has been at the top the whole time as well, so a very steady performance. And Martin Krzyzanowski from Poland, that's the number 3. Congratulations to him, very nice third place there. Must have played some very good chess. I don't think, it's a pity we didn't get to see more of his games, but we'll probably be able to replay them later. I hope everyone enjoyed it. If you didn't participate and watch the commentary, I hope that you learned a thing or two, or enjoyed my hair stuff. And I'll be back probably next month. Either Eric or Ramon is gonna do it, or maybe I'll be back with one of them. So thanks for all the nice comments, and I hope you guys enjoy next month's tournament just as much as this one. And I'll see you later.